And I am C-3PO, human-cyborg relations. And this is my counterpart, R2-D2.
Hello.
I wonder if you could tell us about the first time you were recognized as Anthony Daniels, the man who is C-3PO, outside of a Star Wars event.
That's, I'm not sure I can remember, but I do remember very early on, and this is curious because this person must have had some extraordinary insight. Because I remember being in Tower Records and I took something to the counter and just said, may I have this, please? And he said, you're Anthony Daniels. And the shock was like amazing. He must have watched and seen the tiny credit that I got going up the screen. You know, I wasn't there anywhere else. There was a tiny credit. And I was really bewildered how he knew. But he did. But I cannot remember when it began to happen. And of course, it happens a lot now that people come up to me in the street and go, are you C-3PO? And I kind of go, well, not today, but yeah, sometimes. Or they come up and say, Anthony Daniels. Yeah. And so many times, and I do talk about this in the book because it always touches me. And it's almost always the same phrase. They just say, thank you for my childhood. I cannot tell you what that means because finally, after however many years, people are saying thank you. Nobody ever could say thank you to me in the beginning because they didn't know I was involved. And to have that thank you in the end, and it's a very gentle touch, is people who go back in time to when they first heard that voice, which is a bit croaky today. It's winter here, not winter like you.
No, we're buried in the snow here.
Are you? Well, at least you're geared up to it. England falls apart in the snow, as you probably know. And sometimes, you know, if I suddenly do the voice or something, but you know, a little child will get it. But hello, I am C-3PO, human cyborg relations. And sometimes adults really begin to tear up because suddenly that voice carries them back to when they were so many, you know, the age in 1977. Mm-hmm. And that seminal moment where often their dad would take them, particularly a dad bonding experience. And adults will tell me often about the first time they saw it, and maybe that their dad isn't around anymore. Mum and dad, the family, people have passed on, passed away. And often they tell me about how important it was in their family life or for them personally as a refuge. And I talk about this because I didn't know this was happening until recent years when I have, in the end, met a lot of fans and talked to them. They talk to me about why it's important to them and the memories. So now I'm very comfortably recognized in pretty much any city we go to, my wife and I go to around the world.
Other characters in Star Wars, like Darth Vader and Darth Maul, the person playing the character is not the person doing the voice. And it wasn't supposed to be your case, but it ended up being your case. How important was it to you that you be C-3PO's voice? And do you think that another actor could have done a good job? Because in Darth Vader's case, certainly it works very well.
Absolutely. And in Darth Vader's case, there was a problem, which they kind of learned later, was that the person who was wearing the costume as Vader spoke in a particularly idiosyncratic way, if you like, with a timing that made it very, very difficult for James Earl Jones. Because if you say, I want every part of this ship to feel a presence I haven't felt since. And then James Earl Jones can, I can feel a presence here I haven't felt since. Totally different timing. And the problem is that the screen image is the same. You cannot stretch those pieces of film. You can't take the frame. And so, yeah. With me, you're quite right. I talk in the book about finding out that George had really disliked my performance to the extent that he wanted to remove those bits which he could, which was the sound, the voice. And I only found that out at the moment when I was about to revoice it. So at the same time as a punch in the face, there was also a welcome, thank you for coming, if you see what I mean. Mm-hmm. And he had, I believe it was 30 people come into the studio, people like Richard Dreyfuss, to look at the voice, as we do in dubbing, and putting voices on which didn't quite match, near enough, but not quite. And it was a voice actor who eventually said to George in the end, look, the original is pretty good, why don't you just use it? And George went, okay. Because it's very true, and I'm sure you know, that you can take 6 actors, give them the same words, and have them come in sequentially. They will all do those things differently. Their timing, their attitude, whatever. They will all be good, but one will be the one you take. And I know very definitely that had they not used my voice, I definitely wouldn't have done any other Star Wars film. And that, well, you know, there was no joy in being him on set.
No, that's clear.
And you see him as a complete character. That is the joy, that you made something. And if somebody took it half of it away, why would you do that again? You know, there would be no pride in that. So.
Well, speaking of sound, you speak the first sentence, line of dialogue in all of the movies, which is, did you hear that? And I find that particularly interesting because sound is an important part of Star Wars. For George Lucas, it certainly was, and it is for certain characters like C-3PO. How important is sound to bringing C-3PO to life?
Curiously, sound, I feel I know there is an Oscar for it because Ben Burt won an Oscar for the best sound in episode 4. But I would say that it comes very much second in the audience's mind to picture. And picture may seem more immediate. You have the image. But sound has, I think, even more subtle qualities. Maybe one just experiences it more inside the head, whereas the picture is over there. I don't know.
Did you hear that? They shut down the main reactor. We'll be destroyed for sure. This is madness.
Sound is so important. And again, Ben Burt won an Oscar partly, but many people couldn't realize that he did take my voice and put a treatment on it so that I speak differently and produce the sound as I would on the set, that stand upright and slightly tense here and all that kind of thing. But then he did and I talk about it, he added, or he got his team to add little servo motors. Zzz, 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 zzz. So every time 3PO moves, there are these mechanical motor sounds. And that just fills in the picture that you have the image, you have the voice, and then you have this mechanical quality. Then the other thing, of course, sound. And I never understood this until I was in Star Wars, where I saw Star Wars, was John Williams' score. And boy, without his music, because I saw the film when I was working on it, without music, not so good.
Which is maybe perhaps why the best job you ever had was emceeing that tour of the John Williams scores.
To be on stage and in the original Star Wars, 3PO said, I'm not very good at telling stories. Well, not at making them interesting anyway. And there I was in front of thousands of people, and I will always remember being in Montreal.
I was there.
You were there?
I was there.
I'm
I
getting
was there.
goosebumps. I'm tingling. That night, probably out of, I think I did it 150 times. My wife and I so remember. I can actually see the people in front of me there. It's very high at the back, and people went lovingly crazy.
Nous sommes ravis de vous voir ce soir à Montréal et bienvenue au concert Guerre des Étoiles.
I gave up trying to stop them applauding because they just went on and on and on. And then, not my idea, but I think my wife and my dresser said, because they gave me this big hockey shirt.
Montreal Canadiens t-shirt.
Yes. And they both said, hey, put it on for, saying goodbye. To tell the story, simply put those key moments, and then to be there whilst people physically made that music next to me. The percussion, the horns, the brass, the 20 violins down here. I cannot tell you, to be on stage, I'm not a musician, but I like music. It was a treat. It was an absolute treat. And to feel, and that became seminal because it was that concert tour that taught me, that brought me towards Star Wars. And there I was seeing, sometimes just in silhouette, but here I could see the faces, and feeling, as you do as a stage actor, feeling the warmth, the excitement, the affection. It's almost a physical thing coming towards you night after night. It really replaced some of the bad memories. And I also understood that I, as a participant in filming, had a very, very different experience from people who saw the finished film from this angle. I'd never seen it like that because I knew what was happening. Okay, I see the films, but not the same. The payoff is I get to be in them, and that's great. But I suddenly, because of the reaction on stage from these vast audiences in arenas and so on, realized that I'd been missing out, and realized that how glad I was that other people got such a thrill out of it. So yeah, very important.